Good morning to all. We are currently in the process of admitting all the participants. Good morning. We will take a few minutes to let everybody in, and then we will start our Europe's Rail Info Day. I'm very happy to greet you this morning. Okay, I think we can now start. It's 9:02 and we have a very busy day ahead of us. So good morning and welcome to all participants and speakers. Today is the official launch of the Europe's Rail Call for Proposal 2023 with a value of 21.2 million euros. My name is Catherine Cesco and I'm delighted to introduce this event to you. So today you will be given detailed information on Europe's rail program and call, and this will be followed by a series of technical presentations, financial and legal guidelines. You will then be invited to ask your questions during the dedicated Q&A session. And in the second phase of our morning, you'll be able to attend a matchmaking session, which will give you the possibility to network, present yourselves to other experts on a platform with many features, which will be kept live after our event. So this is a new element. This platform will be a living environment where you'd be able to connect even beyond today. So for information and a bit of housekeeping, this meeting will be recorded and all presentations and slides will be made available on the info call page of our website. So without further ado, to officially open our info day and set the frame to our event, I have the pleasure of sharing a message from Director of Land Transport at DG Move, Mr. Christian Schmidt.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to this info day for the call for proposals of the joint undertaking. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to address you here today. Ensuring the green and digital transition of the mobility and transport sector is key for the future of Europe, of our industry and our citizens. The results that has been achieved through our activities in Horizon 2020 has set up the scene for more results, paved the way for new partnerships under Horizon Europe. And in the rail sector, the joint undertaking has made lots of progress towards the commitments of the members. But the systemic transformation to which the joint undertaking was expected to contribute, of course, did not end with shift to rail. We still need a major effort in the years to come, connecting fundamental research, applied research to large-scale demonstrations and deployment. And frankly speaking, we are very privileged and lucky. The resources are there. The high level of union contribution committed to the joint European partnerships under Horizon Europe has increased beyond expectations, with almost 1.2 billion euros to be provided both by the Union, from the budget, and from the founding members and industry. Europe's rail joint undertaking certainly has the resources to drive the transformation, leading to more efficient, flexible and reliable network at lower costs. This is a big opportunity, and together we must deliver. We should also be looking for synergies, and there are good examples already. The Clean Planet Interpartnership Assembly that was launched in 2020, bringing together multiple industrial sectors. Our goal should be to maximize the impact, the added value of the joint undertaking, and synergies should be established in the form of continuous dialogue beyond the rail sector. And this is illustrated by this call for proposal. We look forward to seeing how the projects funded under this current call will build synergies with SESA's three joint undertakings, promoting an integrated air and rail network backbone for a sustainable and energy efficient multimodal transport system in Europe. We are also equally eager to see promising projects funded under other topics, supporting for instance, the work on improving planning and operational management of rail services, increasing the attractiveness of rail, exploring and strengthening the joint undertakings research activities, and of course also the very interesting issue of fleet retrofitting for digital automatic couplings, an issue that I personally expect to be increasingly on our radar screen. I invite all of you to be creative, to engage, to be open-minded when responding and replying to this call for proposals, to help develop ideas, concepts, and concrete solutions to make rail the backbone of clean and efficient mobility systems. So, dear ladies and gentlemen, dear Giorgio, I wish you a very insightful meeting today, and best of luck to all your proposals. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Synergies and innovation, definitely the way forward. So before launching the technical sessions, I will shortly welcome both executive directors from SESAR 3 and EU Rail Joint Undertaking. Mr. Andreas Boschen, Executive Director of SESAR 3JU, is here to share with us some important messages on the joint call dedicated to promoting air and rail integrated networks. To follow this, Mr. Travaini, Executive Director of EU Rail Joint Undertaking ad interim, will formally introduce the event, present the program, and tell us more in detail about the call for proposals we opened today. So I invite Mr. Andreas Boschen to take the mic and make a presentation.
Thank you, Catherine. Good morning to all. I hope you can hear me. I'm indeed the Executive Director of the SESAR Joint Undertaking. So SESAR stands for Single European Sky Air Traffic Management Research. So why am I joining you today for this information session? It's a call launched by Europe's Rail. What am I doing here from an air traffic management perspective? Well, like Christian Schmidt just has said, the call has one topic, which is called Integrated Air and Rail Network Backbone for a Sustainable and Energy Efficient Multimodal Transport System. And this topic was designed jointly by our two joint undertakings. In our case, in SESAR, one of our 9 flagships for research and innovation is multimodality and passenger experience. And we have already developed many SESAR solutions which help the airports to improve the coordination with all stakeholders in view of best serving the passengers. We call this total airport management. It brings together the airlines, the air navigation service providers, the ground handlers, border police, customs, security, public transport companies, etc., etc. But now it is time to go a step further. And our intention is to generate synergies between the air and rail innovation communities. Indeed, aviation and rail are integral parts of our European transport system. So ensuring greater connectivity and seamlessness between the two modes of transports makes a lot of sense. Innovation will allow for more predictable, affordable, and sustainable mobility for passengers, providing a door-to-door perspective for their journey. With a total investment of 7 million euro, we are looking for projects addressing real-time information exchange between the two transport modes and collaborative planning, including for exceptional situations such as bad weather. We are looking forward to receiving your proposals in order to improve door-to-door multimodal mobility for our European citizens. Thank you and good luck to all of you. I hand over, or back to Catherine or to George, or whatever. Have a good day.
Thank you very much, Andreas. So again, for all the colleagues, I think you have understood the importance of this call. Today, we are welcoming you in this 2023 call for proposal with something more than usual. So we are really demonstrating to you what we want. We want an excellence in collaboration and innovation. And I'm very delighted to see so many of you around here, because I think this is a unique opportunity that we have to meet, as the messages I think passed to you already, but it's good to repeat it, to meet the passengers and business expectation, going beyond the boundaries of simple EU program or individual joint undertaking. So it's really a matter of collaboration and innovation. And our common vision is obviously to improve the transport and mobility ecosystem and contributing to the Union goals. So we're working together, and we are here also ready to co-finance the risk that you, innovators, are ready to undertake for forward-looking projects. And so we really urge you to work together and to form consortia, leveraging the strength of each of you, of each partners. So working together, different companies from different member states and the regions and the countries associated to Horizon Europe and maybe beyond, it brings something that, as the saying goes, along you go fast, but together you go farther. And we really want you to take up this opportunity to join us to shape our future. And in fact, there is not only a synergy call with Cesar, but our call includes 6 other topics on exploratory subjects. And those exploratory subjects are really the first steps, but very important steps for research towards innovation. In fact, our ambitions in Europe's Rail, it's really to build up on the most promising exploratory works and successively look towards solutions that we can implement into the market and make a difference for Europe and in Europe. So following this generic, if you want, opening remark that I hope also motivates you to work together, I will now enter directly into the presentation of the call itself. I will provide to you a generic presentation of the framework of the call, where it sits in Europe's Rail, and then we can enter into the detail of each topics with my colleagues, and then also into the legal and finance ones. So if we go to the next slides, you can see that what is Europe's Rail about? It's all what we have heard already, and we really want to deliver and bring a new integrated system approach, able to bring a high capacity, flexible, multimodal, sustainable, and reliable European rail network, eliminating the barriers that currently impede this to succeed. And it is, again, for the user and for the European citizens and cargos. We want to make sure that research and innovation makes rail an everyday mobility. So we want also to increase the use of public transport. If you go to the next one, we can see how Europe's Rail is organized. Again, it's an integrated program. It's a novelty of this Europe's Rail joint undertaking. And why this novelty? Because all the research and innovation projects we are presenting to you, they fit under the so-called innovation pillar. That is the driving force of research and making sure that we have solutions that we can later on implement. But implement where and how? First of all, how? It should be through an integrated and systemic approach. So we need to see how individual solution fits in the rail system. And this, it's the work of the system pillar. And linked to that also how it interfaces outside of the rail system. You have understood our aim is not to work in silo, it's really to look into the entire ecosystem. And for example, the interface with aeronautic that we have discussed before. And then the third element is where. So we need to deploy it, and we need to think where and how to deploy it. And the third element of our program is the deployment group that will close this innovation circle and will address also any possible barriers together with the European Union legislator. To go to the next slide, we can see that this is how the program is configured and how you can navigate toward our program. We have on the top a regulation that define our main objectives and provide the existence also for Europe's Rail. And secondly, we have a strategic master plan that provide the forward-looking vision of where we need to go until 2031. And well, you can find as well the Europe's Rail Multi-Annual Work Program. All is available on our website. And I would like to focus on this just to explain to you that you can find much more detail of what I have explained to you in summary in this multi-annual work program, which is also your crystal ball, because we have defined a research and innovation program for the next 10 years. Obviously, it's not written on stone. We will continuously update it, especially also on the results of the exploratory research activities, which those are not defined in the multi-annual work program with concrete work, because as the wording is saying, exploratory research, it's really about new ideas and new technologies that maybe next year will emerge. And for this reason, all of these will be put in our annual work program. In the annual work program, you can find our call for proposal every year. If you go to the next one, you can find an important message from myself, which all the Europe's Rail Corps are open to all eligible entities in accordance with Horizon Europe. We are a partnership between the European Union, represented by the Commission, and some private stakeholder, largely representing the main rail stakeholders, but our calls are open to anyone. Our main stakeholders, the so-called private member, if they are participating in our call, they will add additional resources to it. So this is the only difference, but all the calls are open to anyone. If you go to the next one, here you can find a better detail of, well, if you want a budgetary overview of the call that we're launching today, it's 23.3 million euros of total value with a maximum co-funding of 21.2 million euros and the non-funded activity of 2.1. Why those non-funded activities? Because we have one topic, which is an innovation action, which is expected to be co-funded up to 70%. All our other activities are funded up to 100% of the eligible cost. You can see also that we don't foresee a contribution from the members in this case, but it doesn't mean that the members also could not participate, and in that case, most probably, they will also provide some contribution in addition to this total value. You can see there also this particularity, where it is the first time that two joint undertakings are making a synergy call, so we're very proud of it. And synergy calls means also working together in terms of budgetary term. So indicatively, what we have indicated there is that we're going to share the cost. What it is written in the dedicated call, synergy call with César, you will see that in the call text, we expect a targeted balanced participation of the entities, both from the rail and the aviation sector, so that we also have a balanced consortium and a balanced representation of all the different elements that needs to be tackled with research and innovation. Obviously, applicants can justify a different approach, but this really needs to be justified. If you go to the next one, it's the call itself. In the call itself, we are opening it today, so we're having the info day on the day where you can, in theory, already submit a project proposal, and you can submit this project proposal through the funding and tender portal of the European Commission. You can find all the links in our website until the 7th of February, and I have underlined until 1700, so until 5 p.m. 5 p.m. 01, your proposal will not be accepted. don't hesitate to submit already draft. You can submit plenty of draft in advance, so that in case something goes wrong, at least there is one version that you have submitted. The cost structure is the classical cost structure of Horizon Europe, for those of you who knows it. Otherwise, you will see that in the call text we have two main elements, expected outcomes and scope. Each of them are quite self-explanatory. We are talking about destinations. What are those destinations? Where largely destination 1 to 7, they reflect our flagship area that you can find in the multi-annual work program. So destination 1 reflects our flagship area 1 because it deals with traffic management systems. And you can see there all the detailed information of the type of action, expected technological readiness level in accordance with the definition of Horizon Europe. And you can see another information that we expect to finance one proposal. And the reason for this, and it's the same for all topics, it's simply that the budgetary that we have allocated to it can cover one proposal. Obviously, if there are two excellent proposals for half of the money, that we could finance in this case two proposals. To go to the next one, you can see the destination 8. What is destination 8, which I haven't mentioned? It's simply exploratory research and other activities. And those activities, as I have mentioned, are fundamental for shaping our future and also for shaping the future of the next steps of research and innovation. You can see that the expected TRL is lower than before. Therefore, they are research and innovation actions funded 100%, or you can see a couple of them are coordination and support actions in accordance, again, with the definition of Horizon Europe. You go to the next one. This it's a message that you have, in addition to our info day, you have the possibility all along the call itself to contact also the services of the European Commission, in this case REA. There will be also a presentation at the end of this morning session for you to inquire about general questions about Horizon Europe funding instruments, but also to help you out in the registration of your companies and your entities inside the database, and making sure that you have the appropriate financial elements to make sure that you are eligible. So all of these will be presented to you in the detail later on during the presentation. In addition to that, you can find also in the call itself an email that you can use for questions and answer. Remember that we will only answer it either now through the info day on the Q&A or through the email info-call that is present on the call itself to answer to all your questions. We will try to answer your question within a week in general. So don't expect an answer on the day after. It may take us maybe a bit more time if we need to double check a few answers. Then also let me take this opportunity to remind you that, as Catherine said, we have put at your disposal for the first time in the calls Europe's RAID a matchmaking application, which is the one where you have registered right now on our website, so it's not on any different environment. And this one will be kept open until the 7th of February on the closure of the calls. The participant, I think, could really, if they want, use this opportunity to submit their ideas, their expertise, and share information, and really doing matchmaking among other participants at the end to build up the best possible consortium that provide the best possible answer to our topic call. So I think I have finished my general presentation, and I will now give the word to my colleague from the program team, and Lea Patjes will start in presenting to you the Destination 1 call for proposal.
Thank you, Giorgio, for this clear and insightful introduction. Thank you to Andreas for having shared these words with us previously. So before we start the presentation of the call topics, I just want to check on the technical aspect, because we've had some comments on the audio quality of the video from Christian Schmidt. So I just would like to remind you that everything is functioning very well, and if you have had some sound problem experience, please adjust your headphones. So there is an adjustment setting in your headphone that can be done on your own computer, and that way you will be making sure that you reach us perfectly well when we have presentation ongoing. Nevertheless, if some problem should occur, please raise your hand and tell us, and we will find alternative solutions. So this said, we will now go to our technical presentations by our program manager and senior program managers, Lea Patjes, Sébastien Denis, Carolina Cardea, and Javier Ibanez de Irigoyen. So I will now give the floor to Lea Patjes for her first presentation.
Good morning, and thank you for being with us this morning for our Information Day for our call 2023. My name is Lea Patjes, and I am a Senior Program Manager with the Europe's Rail Joint Undertaking, and I'm here to introduce the first topic. This is a joint call that we are launching with our sister joint undertaking, CESAR 3 JU, in order to look into integration between air and rail traffic management. Expected EU contribution will be of 5 million euros for a total duration of 36 months. We expect proposal to reach a TRL 6, meaning a validation in a relevant environment. It's an innovation action that we would like to have contributing and collaborating with projects already launched on the side of Europe's Rail, mainly FP1 Motional and FP6 Future, but also collaborating with 3 proposals to be financed under 3 topics currently open on the side of CESAR 3 JU. A few details regarding expected outcomes before we go to the scope of the action itself. We expect the proposals to address several types of outcomes, from operational efficiency and how to increase capacity and in terms of planning and onto the network, both networks, air and rail, how to increase capacity on both network and make sure that we make a better use of the existing infrastructure. How to improve resilience in case of disruptions on traffic, whether it's on the side of air or on the side of rail, and how to ensure that operations can bounce back and passenger can travel to the end destination on time and with the right level of safety. How to increase environmental aspects, obviously how to reduce fuel burn on the side of air and optimizing their operations, and how to increase and optimize operations on the side of rail to contribute to a reduction of CO2 emissions. Passenger experience is also a big aspect of this topic. We want to make sure that passengers can make the best use of both systems and have a seamless journey traveling from air to rail or from rail to air. Last but not least, cost efficiency. We are looking into having proposals contributing to reducing the overall cost of the system. Data sharing powered applications are expected to be a big part of this topic, and how we can improve overall operations and predictability of the workflow. Coming to the scope of the action, it can be summarized into 3 main areas. The first one is obviously looking into state-of-the-art of what solutions currently exist onto the market and see where the gaps are. And looking into developing tools for better integration between the two systems. We're looking into having a common operational intermodal operation plan and interface between air and rail management systems. The second big area is looking into real-time information exchange between rail and air in order also to contribute to an improved collaborative decision-making process and improving overall operations between the two systems. Disruptions and crisis management in case of issues on either side of the systems. How do we look at bouncing back and making sure that rail can go ahead, that air can go ahead, and looking at the exchange of data between the two systems in order to make sure that operations can be resumed as quickly as possible. Last but not least, I will put the focus on the expectations in terms of delivery from proposals to address this topic. We want to have concept of operations. We want to have a high-level architecture considering different type of operational scenarios and use cases. We want to have a validation of requirements and specifications for data exchange, and together with a business case analysis. We also want proposals to consider relevant standards and the overall regulatory system. I will also mention that CESAR 3 joint undertaking and Europe's Rail are looking into providing templates for key deliverables and providing further guidance for the project execution. However, in the meantime, the project handbook of CESAR 3 JU and the process and governance handbook of EU Rail should be references for possible applicants in order to see how the overall execution framework will look like. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone, my name is Sébastien Denis. I'm Senior Program Manager in the JU, and I will present today 3 topics on the Destination 8 exploratory research. The first topic I will present is the topic 1 on noise and vibration. The expected EU contribution is 4.1 million euros. The indicative project duration is 36 months, and the TRL to be achieved is 5-6. The type of action is research and innovation action, and we have identified in the call 1 linked action. This is FP4, Well for Earth, and there is interaction for things with the system pillar to the aspect related to the standards and EU regulation. The call topic has been divided into 2 research areas, the noise and the ground vibration. As part of the expected outcome, the proposal should improve EU noise mapping, including methodology and tools, and to define relevant limit values that could potentially serve as the basis of upcoming revision of the TSI on noise. For the ground vibration, it is expected to have feasible solutions on improvement of prediction tools on vibration impact. It should also provide an assessment method on how vibration emission can be determined and specified independently of location and track influences in the future to determine the effect of the train alone independently from the track. So the scope has been divided into several work areas. Regarding the noise, the first research area is on the onboard measurements of the rail acoustic roughness. The proposer is expected to investigate an effective approach for optimized rail reprofiling processes that minimizes the nuisance to line-side residents and avoid high maintenance costs. It will also have to support the development of the necessary tools enabling the introduction of onboard measurement data for acoustic rail roughness to support the optimization of future reprofiling process by minimizing the noise impact of railways. The second research area will be on the rail optimization for noise, vibration, and life cycle cost. The proposal shall investigate how to integrate noise and vibration abatement method into asset management plans, considering the impact on environmental and health conditions to optimize the track system for LCC and noise and vibration simultaneously. The third research area will be on noise and curves. Proposers are expected to deliver digital twin approach, and engineering tools for noise and curves prediction. The last area of research will be for noise on transposition and uncertainties of pass-by noise. Research will focus on transposition from one site to another, freight wagon acoustically certification, and noise emission of new technologies. The first research area for ground vibration will be on a prediction tool. The proposer is expected to deliver a prediction tool for ground vibration impact supporting urban areas and the integration in the prediction tool of GIS data concerning track, soil, and building data. Finally, requirements and specification for ground-bound vibration emission of rolling stock will be an area of research. For that, proposer should deliver analysis and simulation on the most important parameters in vehicle construction responsible for vibration emissions and an assessment method on how to specify and verify vibration emission of vehicles alone. The second topic I will present today is a topic number 2 on future metro systems. The expected EU contribution is 3.1 million euros. The indicative project duration is 24 months and the TRL to be reached is 3-4. This is a research and innovation action that will have 3 linked actions: FP1 motional, FP2 R2D2, and FP3 IAM4Rail. On the top of that, interaction with the EU Rail system pillar is expected on the aspect related to the interface between the mainline rail and the urban mobility systems. Finally, proposers are expected to consider collaboration with cities participating in the EU mission for climate neutral and smart cities. The expected outcome of this topic are the following: identify new requirements, develop new concepts, and implement early stages of development of solutions based on new emerging technologies such as automation, digitalization, artificial intelligence, telecom for future metro system. These new technologies, concepts, and new ways of operation should contribute to a better mass rapid transport system with optimized capacity, flexi demand, making the most of the existing infra and rolling stock following customer commuting habits, flows, and better managing disruption. Efficient train control system that enable cost reduction and developed operational response. And finally, sustainable transport system applying different technologies and concepts to better manage the total cost of ownership and deliver better energy footprint. The scope is divided into 3 work streams. The first work stream will deal with the increased adaptability of metros to fluctuation in demand. For that, the proposal is expected to deliver a feasibility study, potentially using simulation tools as proof of concept to demonstrate to what extent it is possible to increase the adaptability of metros to fluctuation in demand. The second work stream will focus on future of trains control. For that, proposers are expected to deliver a feasibility study, including an analysis of the different trends in train control and existing future technological solutions, as well as a definition of future needs and functional requirements for the different categories of metro systems. Finally, the third workstream will focus on the advantages and trends brought by AI and data science in metro operation for different types of metro. For that, proposer will deliver concepts of the most promising AI and data science implementation application in metro's operation with a cost-effective approach in different categories of metro system. Now, I will present you the fourth topic on disruptive asset management solutions, including urban use cases. The expected EU contribution is 2.7 million euros. The indicative project duration is 30 months, and the expected TRL is 4-5. This is a research and innovative action that will be linked to the FP3 project IAM4Rail. The expected outcome are the following. The proposal should validate in a relevant environment 3 innovative demonstrators of asset monitoring solution and/or inspection solution and/or remotely controlled intervention solution. Among the proposed demonstrator, at least 2 urban use cases should be addressed. Following this constraint, there's also 2 conditions to be respected. First, no similar activities than the one proposed in FP3 IM4Rails as indicated in the public deliverable 2.6 definition of use cases, including innovation, business assessment, KPIs definition, and roadmap should be proposed. The second condition is no robotic or unmanned application should be considered as use case. As part of the scope described in the call text, proposer should detail specific, tangible, and suitable use cases illustrating the impact of the technologies in concrete solutions. The proposal should enhance the capability for monitoring inspection solutions, evolving towards non-intrusive and self-diagnostic systems with no or minimal service disruptions and/or remotely controlled intervention through the usage of innovative disruptive technologies concerning data acquisition, data analysis, and maintenance decision making. Finally, the proposed innovative solution should contribute to significant improvement in reliability, availability, maintainability, and safety of the system or work condition versus the state of the art. Thank you very much.
So good morning, I'm Carolina Cardea from Europe's Rail Joint Undertaking, and today I would like to introduce 2 different topics of Destination 8, exploratory research and other activities. So we can begin with the biodiversity topic. The expected EU contribution for the action is of 2.8 million euros, and the indicative duration that we have envisaged is 3 years, so 36 months. It's a coordination and support action which is complementary to other Europe's Rail projects such as FP3 IM4Rail and FP4 Rail for Earth, on top of the EU Biodiversity Strategy 2030 and the results and the outcomes of the H220 BISON coordination and support action. The project stemming from this topic should tackle different topics, let's say items. First of all, the available should produce recommendations for developing and improving cross-cutting biodiversity and climate policies. This in order to constitute a baseline and ensure therefore that future projects may consider the biodiversity aspects. It should as well produce methodologies to evaluate the environmental efficiency of rail transport infrastructure and evaluate as well the impact on the ecosystem service and climate challenges. The project should also develop an inclusive assessment framework of the impacts from infrastructure on the biodiversity, enabling the compiling of data. Finally, we can say that another important aspect will be to ensure the development of a carbon emission calculator to be used in the railway infrastructure projects that may as well support the PRIME initiative by achieving and developing a harmonized scorecard. The work streams for the action have been identified in 2 mainly. So a first one focusing on bridging the transport infrastructure and energy distribution production networks together in order to identify the link with biodiversity and therefore climate change. We would like to leverage the use of multilateral platforms for the preparation of sustainable infrastructure projects that can enable the achievement of green bonds, as well as identify tools that may enable the integration of biodiversity into the strategic and operational plans within rail. Second work stream, valuing the nature on railways instead, shall focus towards the finding a standardized approach to effectively and efficiently manage and integrate land management practices for different stakeholders and develop common European biodiversity metrics. So as I mentioned before, I will be presenting an additional topic today. This is extending the rail network PhDs. The expected EU contribution for the action is of 2 million, and there is no really indicative duration for the project. So the different applicants are free to choose. The technological readiness level of the action to be deployed within this framework shall achieve 1 or 2. It is a research and innovation action, also having complementarity with other of Europe's Rail projects, such as Academics for Rail. The idea, so the outcome of the action to be developed from the project stemming from the topic, is to further extend the network of research and innovation in terms of, therefore, cooperation, networking, and alliance that has already been implemented partially with the previous project I mentioned before, so Academics for Rail. We would here like to develop between 6 and 10 PhDs. The topics are quite free. We have proposed topics, but again, these are not, let's say, binding, so you are free to suggest additional topics as well as alternative topics. These are, first of all, measures and mechanisms to support the implementation of rail technical innovations that may support the decarbonization of transport. Secondly, change making for gender equality in rail, education and training in rail, rail-enabled logistics, and fast night train operations. So these are the 5 proposed topics for the PhDs. To dig a bit more into detail of the different topics I mentioned before, for the first one, the idea is to support, to develop and address the topic of how is it possible to support innovation in rail and enable the different innovations to overcome different barriers that can be market due to standards and regulation and so on, that sometimes inhibit the deployment of the innovative solutions. The second topic, the one that is focusing on gender equality in rail, here what we would really like is to research further on the gender gap and try to improve and focus the experience of women in rail, both considered as users of the rail services, but also in terms of providing competencies within the companies and therefore as members of the workforce. The topic of education and training could start from the results, at least from the public results of this EU-funded project Staffer, and further develop and focus what are the competences required within the rail sector, how to train the teachers and different personnel that should educate the graduate students, and also how we could achieve what is a standardized training program across Europe. The topic focusing on rail-enabled urban logistics could instead focus on freight, therefore freight rail and freight multimodal terminals. So how could these be integrated in a cost-efficient and effective way within the logistics city hubs? At last topic suggested from Europe's Rail is fast night train operations. In this case, the PhD could focus on a feasibility study, tackling therefore technical, financial, and logistics aspects, as well on market analysis, route analysis, and fleet assessment. Thank you very much for your attention.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining today. This is going to be the last topic to be presented today. I am Javier Ibáñez, Senior Program Manager at Europe's Rail, and as I mentioned, I will be presenting you the last topic on this call 2023 that is related to the DAC fleet retrofitting and retrofitting capacity under the activities of the current works going on within Europe's rail. As you can see in the summary table, as has been also presented during the rest of the morning, this coordination and support action is entitled to last 24 months with an expected EU contribution of 1.5 million. And also you can see at the bottom of the slide the linked actions and expected contributions or interactions with other ongoing ongoing Europe's Rail projects. One of them being the flagship project 5, Transformer, and D'accord, a project that is from the previous call of Europe's Rail. You will see that also additional interaction activities with the system pillar will be defined and also aligned with the activities being deployed within the DAC delivery program under the umbrella of Europe's Rail. Going a bit more into the expected outcome of this topic, you see, if you have been following the activities of Shift2Rail, the Europe's Rail, the successor of Shift2Rail, is been working on freight digital automatic coupling. So, as you may know, DAC will integrate digital communications and energy for the rail freight, and of course, in addition to the mechanical and pneumatic coupling, the DAC will enable and enhance the performance and safety of rail freight and eliminate as much as possible manual interventions. Of course, DAC will also allow addressing operational gaps to increase the competitiveness of rail freight, and the proposal to be funded under this topic should provide a plan for full-scale European DAC upgrading and retrofitting of existing freight locomotives and freight wagons, together with identification and assessment of the retrofitting capacity available. All the project deliverables, for the sake of transparency and to gather the interest of the railway stakeholders, will be of public nature, and of course the results will be following up and continuing the work in the context of the European DAC delivery program, as stated in the slide before. Here you can see the scope of the project. The project in this action will have to address these two specific work streams. The first one dealing with the fleet retrofitting readiness, in which the project should collect and analyze the status of wagons and locomotives in operations in Europe, and of course addressing the elements you can see listed in these three bullet points, from locomotives with difference between shunting and mainline ones being addressed, aspects of course dealing with the wagons and the type of traffic they are involved within, and of course the TSI compliance and safety level achieved on those activities. The second work stream, and the last one, will have to do with the DAC retrofitting capacity plan, and the project will have to identify the required workshop capacity and locations within Europe, and the workforce skills available to complete these actions and activities within the plan proposed in order to reach this DAC retrofitting plan, considering also the optimization of the workshops availability in the different locations within Europe. Last but not least, this proposal or this project will have to propose recommendations based on the analysis on how mobile workshops could cover these retrofit needs, and of course develop a comprehensive retrofitting capacity plan, so these activities can be foreseen in the hopefully coming years. Thank you very much.
Back, everybody. I hope you have found our first presentations useful and informative, and that you have saved your questions for the Q&A session that will follow after the next session we're having now. So I will now introduce our Head of Corporate Services, Mr. Vincent Declercq-Failly, who will present legal and financial guidelines to help you with the application process. Please note we also have a video that is already available on our FAQ section of our website on legal and financial guidelines that you may consult as well. But we will, of course, post on our website as well all the information from today as announced previously. So here is Vincent's presentation, which will be followed by the Q&A session.
So good morning, my name is Vincent Declercq-Failly. I'm the Head of Corporate Service of the Europe's Rail Joint Undertaking, and I will now present you the legal parts and followed after, still with me, with the financial aspects. So from a legal point of view, first, what are the important elements to consider when you submit a proposal, and in accordance to either the grant agreements and the rules of Horizon Europe, or also from a Europe's Rail perspective. The new features in Horizon Europe proposal compared to H2020. So there are new fields in the Part A. Some fields were moved from Part B to Part A, and also you also have new elements in Part B. About the Part A, there is now researchers table needed to follow up the researcher's career. There is a role of participating organization, and also self-declaration on gender equality plan. I will come back to this in a moment. The fields that have been moved from Part B to Part A are about ethics self-assessments, and also a security questionnaire, which is new in Horizon Europe proposal. In Part B, new, you have glossary of terms, consistency on the use of terminology, which is to be ensured in all project phases, and explanation on what exactly should be included in each of the sections. An important element that the GU is always scrutinizing and having a look at is the what we call EDES database, so the exclusion database system, before the evaluation, before awards, and also before the grant agreement signature. There is a systematic control in our accounting system about whether or not the beneficiary, the coordinators, the affiliate entities are flagged into this exclusion database system. And there is a specific attention about the status of each company in the accounting database of the European institutions about bankruptcy, breach of social security or tax obligation, grave professional misconduct, fraud, corruption, and also if we're talking about suspicion or elements proven. So it explains why the applicants are subject to administrative sanction or in the following exclusion situation, and therefore they cannot participate to the action. So this will be closely monitored in Europe's rail proposal, similar to any proposal from European institution proposals. Gender equality plan is one of the eligibility criterion for public bodies, higher education establishment and research organization from member states and associated countries. It must cover aspects about publication, formal documents that are published, dedicated resources, commitment of resource and expertise in gender equality to implement the plan, the data collection and monitoring, the sex, gender, disaggregated data, on personal and annual reporting based on indicators, and training, so awareness, raising training on gender equality and unconscious gender bias for staff. A self-declaration will be requested at proposal stage, and if the proposal is selected, declaring having gender equality plan will be necessary before the grant agreement is signed. So who is eligible for funding? EU countries, member states, overseas countries and territories linked to member states, new EU countries, countries associated to Horizon Europe, low and middle income countries, where you have guidelines and a link in this presentation for future use, and other countries when announced in the call or exceptionally if the participation is essential. Then you have specific cases, affiliate entities established in countries eligible for funding, EU bodies, and international organizations. Associated countries are legal entity based in third country, officially candidate for association to Horizon Europe. They are eligible. However, the signature of the grant agreement will be subject to the positive conclusion of the association negotiation. They will be treated as entities established in an associated countries in the Horizon Europe, and association agreement with the third country concerned applies at the time of the signature of the grant agreement. Here is the list of the associated countries, 17 for the moment. There are also specific ongoing discussion, like for instance, negotiation ongoing for Morocco, for United Kingdom. Really recently, UK is expected to become an associated country to Horizon Europe at the beginning of the 24. UK entities can take therefore part in the call for proposal of Horizon Europe. Legal entities established in Switzerland are currently not covered by the transitional arrangements, and Liechtenstein does not intend to associate to Horizon Europe. Now talking about the evaluation and the award criteria. There are 3 award criteria, the same as under Horizon 2020. We have excellence, impact, and quality and efficiency of implementation. The specific EURAIL sub-criteria, Annex 4 of EURAIL Annual Work Programme, applies as well. We talk about excellence, quality of the proposed joint activities to achieve the deliverables, about the impact, quality and credibility of the action to contribute achieving the E-Rail Master Plan objectives, and the expected impact of the E-Rail multi-annual work program. Quality and efficiency of the implementation, we talk about appropriateness of the project management, structure and quality of the proposed coordination. Scores and weighting. Evaluation scores will be awarded for the criteria. For full application, each criterion will be scored out of 5. The threshold for individual criteria will be 3, and the overall threshold, applying to the sum of the 3 individual scores, will be 10. To determine the ranking for IAS, the score for impact will be given a weight of 1.5. Weighting is only used for the ranking, not to determine if the proposal passes the threshold. Proposals that pass the individual threshold and the overall threshold will be considered for funding with the limit of the available call budget. So meaning that if you have 2 proposals having reached the minimum score and the weighting for the same topic, then this will be the best score that will be awarded the proposal, subject to budget availabilities of the call, of course. Ethics and review, same criteria as in Horizon 2020. For all fund activities, ethics is an integral part of research, and ethical compliance is essential. An ethic review process is carried out systematically in all Horizon Europe proposals based on a self-assessment included into the proposal. Ethical research conduct implies the application of fundamental ethic principles and legislation, including adherence to the highest standards of research integrity as described in the European Code of Conduct for Research Integrity. Following lesson learned, focus mainly on the complex serious cases and reduce number of ethics requirements in the funded part. Security scrutiny is something new in Horizon Europe. Security issues will be checked systematically in all Horizon Europe proposals. In H2020 it was only proposals submitted to the topics flagged as security sensitive. Now we check them all, and checked are based on self-assessments included into the proposal. The check based on the self-assessment may trigger an in-depth security scrutiny should that apply. Talking now about the time to grants. The information on outcome of the evaluation is expected to be around 5 months from the deadline for submission, indicative date for the signing of the grant agreement, and around 8 months from the deadline for submission, which means that after the submission phase, at the call deadline, the proposal evaluation should take place within 5 months maximum, and where starts the invitation to the grant preparation, so what we call the GAP, the grant agreement preparation, it should last for another 3 months for a total duration of 8 months maximum before the grant agreement signature. Following the grant agreement signature and what we call the time to grant, then there is the pre-financing, accession to the grants, and the project implementation phase that starts. So what does an Horizon Europe grant agreement look like? All information is fully electronic, so we do not obviously sign grant agreement on paper. There is a corporate structure. The Horizon Europe grant agreement is based on the Commission-wide model, so-called corporate model grant agreements. We implemented the same actions and the same grants than European Commission. And then there is a specific Annex 5, with some important rights and obligations like security, ethics, values, IPR, communication, dissemination, specific rules for carrying out the action. How can I participate in the grant agreements? So you can contribute to the action being a beneficiary. A beneficiary signs the project, has all rights and obligations, being an affiliate entities, with a legal or capital link with the beneficiary. It does the work and may declare cost as well. Being an associated partner, does the work but cannot declare cost. As a subcontractor, does the work and invoices the beneficiary directly, not the contracting authority, and the beneficiary may declare the invoice associated to those costs. Finally, third party providing contributions, so does not work but just give in-kind contribution. The beneficiary may declare the cost of the contribution. In particular, affiliate entities is in accordance with Article 187 of the EU financial rules. So what is verified in this case is that there is a link with the beneficiary, in particular a legal or capital link, which is neither limited to the action nor established for the sole purpose of its implementation. Could be long-term duration, obviously, and this is part of the verification that the GU performs. Associated partner. It's inherited and derived from the international partner status in Horizon 2020 grant agreements, corporate terminology and status with the following features. Associated partner are mentioned in Article 9, and implement action task list in Annex 1. So this is an important element to be sure that the activity is well described, but without receiving new funding. So therefore, costs are not eligible. The beneficiaries must ensure that some of the grant agreement obligation also apply to associated partner, such as Article 11, proper implementation of the action. We were referring to Annex 1, this is the basis, conflict of interest, and so on. So this is the end of the legal presentation. Now we will immediately start with the next step and the financial guidelines for this call. About the submission of the lump sum grants. For lump sum grants, when the amount of lump sum is not fixed in advance, the estimated budget must be described in an annex detail budget table. And I will present some aspect of this annex table later on during this presentation. So this detailed budget table will be the basis for fixing the lump sum amount for the beneficiaries and also fixing the amount of the total grant amount. So EURAIL implemented by analogy the Commission decision authorizing the use of lump sum contribution under Horizon Europe, which says the detailed cost estimation per work package and per beneficiary and affiliate entities, if any, shall include only the costs that would be considered eligible as if we were in an actual cost grant. Where relevant, applicants shall declare that they have followed their own accounting practices for the preparation of the estimated budget. As the lump sum is an approximation of the costs actually incurred, the cost included in this detailed budget table must comply with the basic eligibility conditions for EU actual cost grants. So we refer to the the annotated grant agreement, Article 6. This is particularly important for the purchase of subcontracting, for instance, which must ensure best value for money. As if we were in an actual cost grant, and for free from any conflict of interest. If the budget table contains ineligible costs, the grant may be reduced even later on during implementation of the project or at the very end. So how do we verify if some costs are ineligible? We also evaluate after the review of experts during the grant agreement preparation phase. If we have been instructed to further investigate it with you during this gap phase. I was referring to subcontracting costs, so the principle of subcontracting remains ensuring the best value for money, no conflict of interest, subcontracting of only a limited part of the action, so not the main part, and this is still compulsory. But they are not considered to be additional costs eligibility condition. So the consequence is, in case of breach, the GU may reduce the grant in proportion to the seriousness of the breach instead of reducing the cost itself. And that's the difference between actual cost grant and the lump sum. So the estimated cost for each subcontracting do not need to be included in the Annex 1, and the total estimated cost of subcontracting per beneficiary are not displayed in the Annex 2. So this is determined into this detailed budget table I was referring before. So it is still part of the lump sum grant budget once it is integrated into this Excel file. Why did EURAIL decide to move towards lump sum grants? Removing all obligation on actual cost reporting and financial audit, as I said a few minutes ago. No more certificate of financial statements, no more financial ex post audit. So it's considered as a major improvement and a major reduction of administrative burden for all the beneficiaries and applicants. So the focus is given now on the performance and there is a shift from focus on financial management and checking costs during the implementation phase while we are, for instance, evaluating the grants cost. And now we are more focusing on scientific technical content of the project, which is actually more important. One lump sum share is fixed in the grant agreement for each work package. This amount is paid when the activities in the work package are completed. The payment does not depend on a successful outcome, but on the completion of activities as confirmed by the G. Nevertheless, the fact there are no more financial audits, we still see in the grant agreement some obligation of keeping records. So what do we need? We need the technical documents to be kept, the publication, prototypes, deliverables, of course. We also need to know who did what, and any documents proving that the work was done as detailed in the Annex 1. There is no need to keep track of the timesheets in details, the payslips or the contracts, the depreciation policy, the travel invoices, and every single information about actual costs. So why this Article 20 of lump sum grant is important in case of possible ex post on technical audit, and the reason why some keeping records as per Article 20 is important for you and for the future needs of an ex post audit, technical audit, if applicable. Nevertheless, the fact we give you some example of costs eligible according to the grant agreement rules. So if you declare in your financial Excel table some equipment costs, it should be considered at the same level as the actual cost grants, therefore the depreciation costs that are by default eligible, not the entire equipment cost. By exception, the full cost may be eligible under certain circumstances, but the main rule is the depreciation cost. Personal cost, again, you need to fill in the financial Excel file with your estimates of personal cost. In case you would like to see some calculation applicable under Horizon Europe, then we can simply refer to what is eligible according to Horizon Europe program. So the daily rate calculation according to Horizon Europe refers to daily rates calculated per calendar year from January to December, except for months running from the end of the last calendar year until the end of the reporting period. For those months, you must calculate a separate partial daily rate as follows. You have a formula in the slides, but the main message is that when you prepare your person months, it should be done per calendar year. About the indirect cost now, it is quite simple. The costs that are only indirectly linked to each action implementation, it is, as it was in the case in Horizon 2020 and as it is the case in actual cost grants, the flat rate of 25%. So how does it work? In the financial Excel table, the budget is prepared for each beneficiary, and automatically at the end of the table, the 25% flat rate will be applied for the total cost of the action for each beneficiary and affiliate entities. So nothing different here compared to an actual cost grant. Evaluation of lump sum grant agreements. There are specific aspects that we need to evaluate that are more financial related than the legal part. And that's the reason why it is presented now into this financial part. In the evaluation of lump sum grants, as I said before, lump sum grants remove all obligation versus the use of financial statements, financial audit, and so on. However, in order to ensure that the budget is properly estimated, ex ante, so at proposal stage and while we are evaluating, some additional check has to be performed, and this was clearly indicated in the Commission decision for implementation of lump sum projects that I referred a bit before. This Commission decision says that for lump sum evaluation, and in complement to what was explained in the legal part, there are some dedicated checks we need to do, and especially in the implementation criteria. What has to be done? There is a need to do a check that the budget estimates on the basis of the relevant statistical data are not overestimated. So that means that while we are evaluating the personal costs that are submitted in each proposal, the experts, the evaluators, would compare the submitted personal cost with statistical data that will be provided by the GU. These will be compared, and the evaluators will therefore mention to the GU whether or not some additional clarification has to be requested to the beneficiary. Another element that has to be done, dedicated to lump sum projects, still in the implementation criteria, is assess whether the resources proposed and the split of lump sum shares allows achieving the activities and expected output. As I said before, the focus now is given on the technical results, and we need to ensure that the resource allocation per work package fit to that purpose. Also, it has to be verified that the proposal includes the declaration by beneficiary of having used their own accounting practice. Ex post control. I've already mentioned for the keep in recall slides that there is an option to have ex post control in lump sum grant agreements. Here, there is an article, the Article 25, referring to checks, reviews, and audits. I also said that there is no more financial audit. So for the verification of the proper implementation and successful implementation of the action, the GU may proceed to technical review, technical audits, and verify as well the compliance with the other obligation of the grants, so not only limited to the technical part, but also to the IPR obligation related to third parties, and other obligation like ethics, visibility of EU fundings, and so on. Talking about the detailed financial Excel table. So since the very beginning of this financial presentation, I'm explaining that the proposal should include a detailed Excel file. How does it look like? So this budget Excel file contains multiple tabs. In the first tab, you have this presentation explaining the different instructions, scope, and aim of each of the tab. Basically, what has to be done, you have one tab where you need to have the list of all beneficiaries for the action, beneficiaries and affiliate entities. In this tab of beneficiaries, this is also where you fix the funding rate of the action. It could be 70% or 100%, for instance. Once it is done, you apply change, and automatically the Excel file with macro would generate as many tabs as beneficiaries that are listed in this tab. Why do we need one tab per beneficiary? For the declaration of the cost and the estimated budget per work package. Before filling the tab per beneficiary, the coordinator usually identifies the number of work packages that are needed for the action, and each beneficiary will have such tables to fill in with the list of costs, personal costs, equipment, indirect costs that I was referring before, giving at the very end a summary of costs of the action per beneficiary and per work package. You also have a table if it helps you to calculate the depreciation cost of your equipment, so if applicable to you. In the end, you will have such a table where you have the overview of all the work packages for the grant with all the beneficiaries and the lump sum share for each beneficiary and each work packages. In a later stage, this table will become the Annex 2 of the budget. So, like this overview, you have the lump sum breakdown, the lump sum share per beneficiary for the grant agreement, and finally the total grant value. The lump sum breakdown also have to be presented into the budget proposal table. So at proposal stage, you are requested to fill in the columns with the financial contribution. So that's only for private members. And that's the ICOP that shall be introduced in the budget proposal table, so only for the EU-Rail members. Then you have the own resources, exclusively by applicants that are not members, and this corresponds to the non-funded part of the action. So in case you have selected a funding rate below 100% in the slides that I was presenting before. And then the total estimated income is the total eligible cost of the action. Specific provision to be considered by the EU-Rail private members intending to join a consortia for the submission of a proposal. I referred at the very beginning of the presentation that we have some templates to be filled in for lump sum grant actions. first templates to be filled in the financial Excel table. And then I also referred to a members contribution table. So this table is only for the EURail members, as I referred previously. And in this table, the EURail members demonstrates that in addition to the co-funding that they receive for the action, there is a leverage effect in accordance to the letter of commitment that we have signed with all of them at program duration, and that for this action they will determine and they will develop and they will provide on top of the co-funding up to 1.263 times the funding request in-kind contribution. That could be additional activities or ICOP. This table aims to identify this value of co-funding and in-kind contribution, and in case the members doesn't reach this minimum level of 1.263, then the members should simply identify in a comment a justification, and we will address this together with the member during the gap phase. The estimated members contribution table looks like this. So you have the members listing. It should be consolidated for all the members, so not per beneficiary. You have the co-funding. You have the total in-kind contribution estimated. And finally, the column justification in case you deviate or you propose to deviate. Many thanks for your attention, and later on we will answer to your question if applicable. Thank you.
Thank you, Vincent, for these extensive guidelines. I see that we're still very large in number in our event today. We're over 190 participants. So I'm very happy to see this participation. Some questions are asked in the chat and our director is answering. So please keep going. We will have now the opportunity to also have a proper Q&A session. Our colleagues are here for you. So please make sure to raise your hand if you want to ask a question, or write indeed a question in the chat. We will answer and also take note of all your questions, which will be answered and recorded in the info call page on our website. So if you don't have a question now and a question pops up later on, you know that you will be able to send your question. It will be answered on the info call email address, which we'll put in the chat later on. Yeah. So please now come forward with your questions. We open the floor in the chat, Catherine, or with raising your hand.
Thank you, Catherine. I think the best and efficient way is through the chat to avoid the issues in opening up the microphone. But I can read each of the questions that you will put in the chat and provide you the answer. My colleagues are also present. You can see on the screen Vincent and Isaac that will also provide more elements on the financial and legal matter. So I have already replied to a few questions. If I was not clear on the chat, don't hesitate to re-ask. Otherwise, there is another question: how and under which conditions can partners, members from the JU consortium participate in a proposal or collaborate to a project? Does this reduce their already allocated budget in the JU? What is the funding rate? So I think the question is about the members of the joint undertaking that could participate as a member, as a partner in a consortia. So first of all, as I have mentioned, all the call is open to all entities eligible. So in this case, obviously also the members of the joint undertaking. There is no budget allocated to the member of the JU. This is important. The fact is that the members committed to the joint undertaking to support research and innovation activities with a certain amount that has been defined in their letter of commitment to Europe's Rail. And obviously, they can contribute if they also participate to research and innovation project. So their participation to these particular projects that you will be building up can be also without requesting any funding, if they say that they will only bring what we call additional activities, or it can be through the participation with also funding and also possibly additional activities. So these will be counted against their target to reach the amount that they have committed to the joint undertaking in the letter of commitment. Then the other question is, are proposals that includes members of the JU awarded higher scoring by the evaluators due to the additional financial resources they bring to the project? So here, the general question is no. Why? Because we have indicated an amount of funding and total project cost, for example, in the case of the joint topic with Cesar.
Remind me
that
today, what is your plan? You're leaving at 6-7, right?
Somebody is speaking.
Okay.
Maybe if my comms colleague can mute
yeah,
everyone. Thanks a lot. So if I was saying there is no higher scoring, because what we have done is that we have estimated the need for covering these research activities with the budget that we have indicated. So it's actually, if there is more budget put on the table, well, most probably it is covered with additional activities, and those additional activities are not counted against what is requested inside the call topic. So it's important that when you formulate your project proposal, you answer to what is written in the call topic text. And this is what the evaluator will evaluate against. I don't see more questions. Eleni also put the info call email address. So as we have explained, we can provide also answer in written, and everything will be transparently shared with everyone on our Q&A part of the call text. So it will be published. So a couple of more questions. Is there a connection between the call and Knossos EU? I am not so much familiar with it. I don't know if the colleague they are. At first glance, I would say no, but we may come back to you with a more proper answer in written in the Q&A. It seems that some topics in the call have similarities to topics which are already addressed in the ongoing call of the flagship project, for example, flagship project 4. How will a collaboration between the topics be granted and controlled? Be sure that there will be no duplication of work, but a good cooperation and complementary topic, and if yes, our official interfaces between the project plan for this. So this is an excellent question. Already we have tried to design the call topic text in a way that it is already clear if there are complementarities, and also we are trying to make sure that in case the subject address is the same, we have tried in the call text to focus and orient it in an area which is complementary indeed to the work that are already going on in the flagship project. One example of it is for the asset management topic. There are use cases covered in the flagship project 3, for example, but you can see that we have indicated specific use cases to be covered that we know that will not be covered in flagship project 3. So in this case, it's complementary. We have also indicated in the call text which topics should be complementary to which flagship project. And indeed, so this will be an obligation, and this obligation does not entail, although, a specific legal agreement to be put in place. For those of you familiar in the previous initiative, Shift to Rail, when we had a complementary project, we asked for a collaboration agreement to be put in place. There is an option in Horizon Europe not to ask for it, and we have opted for this option. Why? Because we have been seeing that undertaking such legal agreement, which are always possible on a voluntary basis, but on a mandatory basis, going to, well, sometimes is creating more administrative burden, and the project sometimes don't have the means to collaborate because there is legal agreements that needs to be put into place. So here the idea is that each project needs to look together with the flagship project or any other complementary projects, the best arrangement for this collaboration. And of course, the joint undertaking is available also to ensure that this is possible and can also mediate between projects as needed. I see another question. Yes, this is probably a question for Vincent. I have a question regarding in-kind contribution and the definition of private members. If I understand well, the reporting of 1.26 times more work is basically equal to the 70% support rate. In the last presentation, it was the number additional 1.26 euro to every euro of the contribution. Is that correct? Is my understanding? Please, Vincent.
Yeah, you hear me, Giorgio?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Well, just to make sure for the sound. So actually, it only applies to the members. It's indicated in the annex, the template that has to be added to the proposal only in case a member participates to the project. And actually, it's calculated in addition to the co-funding. So it's not necessarily 70% and so on. It's the, as I explained in the presentation, is the leverage aspect that we expect from the members at program level, and for each project is calculated like that. So in the template, when they receive a certain amount of co-funding in total, the in-kind contribution provided in ICOP and IK. So ICOP is the eligible part of the action. As Giorgio explained before, it should be in total 1.26, but it's in addition to the co-funding. You are muted, Giorgio. You are muted.
Thank you, Vincent. I was already reading and replying to the next question. Now, the question is to know if the Swiss partner can participate or not. So the answer is yes. Swiss partner can participate as third parties. And indeed, they can participate. Then in the project proposal, they will be labeled as associated partner. And as associated partner, you can take part of the program or project activities, but without receiving EU contribution. Then a Swiss partner, most probably, but this is up to the Swiss partner, have arrangement with their government to cover the equivalence of the EU contribution with funding from the Swiss country. But this, again, it's something that needs to be managed by those Swiss partners separately. Can the Swiss partner also lead a project? So I think you mean as a project coordinator. I am not entirely sure that this is possible. I don't know if the colleague had the immediate answer. Otherwise, we come back to you. But I don't think a third party can lead. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that we have to check, and
okay, we will come back.
We will check. But in my opinion, the lead project is the coordinators, and the coordinator should be a beneficiary of the GAN agreement, and a Swiss company cannot be a beneficiary. So, in my opinion, the answer is not. But we are going to check and provide a detailed answer.
Yes, and again, the detail. Thank you very much, Isaac. And the detailed answer will be put in the Q&A in the call text. Okay, so I don't see more questions for the moment being. It means that we have done a good job, that we were clear in the info session, or that you knew already everything, and this is also good as well. but don't hesitate again to come on board and make a good proposal. Even if you're used to it, don't take it as a normal exercise. We are really expecting from you excellent proposal. We're really looking into making a difficult choice for our external independent evaluator. We would like really to have, again, good competition. So I would suggest then maybe Catherine, perfect, that in this case we end up here the Q&A session, but each of you can still ask us questions. But this time, well, you can still do it a little bit maybe in the chat, but mostly from now on in the info call email that was shared with you and is present in our call. Back to you, Catherine.
Thank you, Giorgio. I think we have a good session ongoing here with questions that will also grow as the event goes on. So we now have the pleasure to welcome colleagues from the European Research Executive Agency, who will be sharing with us a presentation from the REA Central Validation Service. So this is the first, and we're very happy to welcome Mr. Radu Soha and Mrs. Mariam Gandhi. So Radu, Mariam, the mic is yours.
Hi, Catherine. Thanks everyone for the invitation. Indeed, my name is Radu Soha. I'm coordinating the validation planning team in REA. Together with Mariam, today we are going to guide you a bit and explain a few very important steps that are related to your submission, let's say, of proposal. Very little step, but the important one. We are going to explain a bit what we do in the Central Validation Service. You can maybe move to the next slide, Catherine, already. And we will also share with you some tips, some guideline documents that should help you during the process. So very briefly, it's going to be a very short presentation. We are going to cover the services of the Central Validation Service, how you are going to register in the portal if you are not registered yet. A few tips there as well, communication and guidance, as I said earlier. Catherine, we can move to the next slide already. So what we do in the Central Validation Service, we have a lot of checks to perform. One of the main one is the verification of the legal existence and the legal status of your organization. In the same time, while we are checking the existence, we are also appointing the legal entity appointed representative. This is a very important role in the process, and I'm not going to go into details today, but I'm sure many of you already you are familiar with this. What else? We are making sure that all the legal changes of validated entities are up to date. It means we are maintaining our database, and for this operation, we also rely on your cooperation to inform us in case there are changes. What else we are covering? Of course, there are many other things such as the universal takeover of validated entities, mergers, basically. We create legal entities and bank account files. We prepare financial capacity assessment. You are going to hear about this a bit later in the presentation. A very new service that was delegated to us is concerning the ownership control analysis. This is specific for certain programs. It's not relevant for today, so we are not going to cover it today. We're also doing ex post status verifications, and these are more for SME and mid-cap status checks. Catherine, if we can move to the next slide. The validation process overview. This is a slide where I would like to familiarize you a bit how it starts for us. Of course, for you, it starts from the registration. You need to register and have your PIC available in the funding and tender portal. With this PIC, you are going to submit your proposal. If everything goes well at a certain moment in time, you are going to request it to submit documents to help us verify what you declared at registration phase. In parallel, we are also taking care of the lead appointment and the FCA. During all this process, of course, we hope to communicate with you via the participant register. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so this is a print screen from the funding and tender portal. For those of you who didn't register yet, there are two options available once you arrive in the portal. Main option on the left, if your organization is already registered, you have an option to search for it. If this is the case, you search for it and you can use it at submission phase. If this is not the case, you need to opt for the second solution that is on the right, to register your organization from scratch. But this really takes around 5-7 minutes, so really don't stress about this process. It's very straightforward, and it's very similar to registering an account online for another sort of application. Basically, the main difference is that you need to register your organization and not yourself. Let's go to the next slide. You will have more print screens now once you opted for the registry of organization. Just a few details that you may be asked to declare. So the organization data, the legal name, you need to declare the country of residence, the registration number, VAT number. These are things that we will check afterwards based on supporting documents, but these are also requested at the registration phase. It's very important that the person who registers an entity, it's what we call the self-registrant, also appoints at this stage a backup in the system. And this is possible at the registration phase. Why it's important? It's important because for communication reasons, it's very it's key to have more persons with access to this account in case one of the person decides to change. So I really advise everyone who doesn't have yet a PIC to already appoint backups in the system, so we have a very solid communication channel with us. At the moment the registration, your PIC appears as declared. This is the status. It means it's not validated by us, but this is a normal status. It's not going to block you at submission phase. We can go to the next slide. Okay, so you registered your PIC. At a certain moment in time, we are going to come back to you and request documents in order to verify what you declared at registration and make sure your PIC is validated so you can continue with the grant signature or contract signature. So let's go back to the next slide. Just this was the overview to make sure that we moved on the validation process overview. How are we going to check your entity? So this check happens during the gap, so it's verified by the REA Center Validation Services at a certain moment in time. And one of the biggest advantages of this check is that it's done only once. So if you already been through it, we don't need to do it again. We just need to maintain it. So this is where the LEAR role comes into force. And this is where we rely on your communication with us in order to inform us in case there are changes, important changes to your organization. Next slide. How we are going to proceed with the validation and what are the rules that we rely on. Catherine, if you can show us the next slide on the validation rules. Perfect, thanks. So in order to perform our checks, we have a set of rules that are called validation rules, and you have a link in the slides that we are going to share with you at the end. These are the rules that we apply, and these are in accordance with the EU financial regulation for both grants and tenders. Validation is required for all beneficiaries and affiliated entities, so not for associated partners. They were mentioned earlier. Next slide. I think we can pass the floor to Mariam to say a few words on the FCA. Thanks.
Thank you, Radu. Hello, everyone. My name is Mariam Gandhi. I also work at REA, at Central Validation Service like Radu, and I'm coordinating the financial verification team. I will explain you a bit today how it works, the financial capacity assessment. We can move to the next slide, please, Catherine. And we see together how the process is. Well, here we have reference for you, some legal basis, and why the financial capacity check is needed. you see that according to the financial regulation that you see on the top, which is the main point of reference for the principles, procedures governing the establishment, implementation, and control of the EU budget. There you see under certain articles, it's 196 and 198, which refers to the need to demonstrate the financial and operational capacity of the applicants in order to carry out the action. So this is one reference, and also you see in the rules on legal entity validation, legal appointment, and financial capacity, how this process works. You will see the link at the end of the slides, and also you will see, you will have access also on the participant portal to this document. Is public. The FCA, which is the abbreviation for Financial Capacity Assessment, will be done for all the coordinators which are asking for more, for a grant higher than 500,000 euros. It will not be done for low grants, which is less than 60,000, and also for public bodies. In case your entity will be triggered for this process for Financial Capacity Assessment, you will receive a message from Central Validation Service in the participant portal, which will invite you to submit supporting documents, because our assessment will be done based on the supporting documents that you will submit to us. Let's see together on the next slide what are these documents that we are requesting to you. So basically we ask you the financial statements for the last, the most two recent years. And these documents should be the official closed documents as submitted to national authorities. They should be signed by the management and dated. So we ask you to submit the balance sheet accounts, profit and loss accounts, and any explanatory notes that are attached to them. In case the grants are higher than 750,000, you're also requested to submit an external audit report. For the entities that are newly established, we will ask a business plan. The business plan should describe actually all the projected financial information on the assets, liabilities, and revenues and expenses, at least for the first year of the activity. We have also certain templates in order to be filled in to provide us this information that needs to be always signed by the legal authorized representative of your entity. We invite you always to submit to us the explanatory notes that are attached to the accounts. Why? Because this gives us really the overview on all the accounting items to see the nature and maturity of each item if they are not indicated in the primary statements, in order to prepare really a good assessment. Then if we do not have certain information, then we are obliged to apply a prudent approach. This means that in case we do not have information on the maturity of some items. For example, if you don't have the maturity of the debts indicated in your balance sheet, then we will by default consider them short-term, and this might have an impact on the ratios. That's why we insist that you submit to us a complete set of information. Then what we can add also, this information, I mean, the financial statement should be submitted in the original language of your country, in the official language. We only ask a free translation for non-EU language. Otherwise, the documents should be submitted as such. This is all. Once we have done the FCA, the Financial Capacity Assessment, this remains valid 18 months from the closing date. It means that if you participate again in another program, this FCA is available for all other services. Thank you for your attention. We will reply to your question if you have any question on this regards. I pass the floor again to Radu, my colleague, to complete our presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Mariam. Two more slides for us and we are done. We can go to the questions. Catherine, one slide on the communication. As I said at the beginning, this is a very key aspect of the process, and we really want to emphasize that Having a functional communication channel between our service and you, it's important, and it will definitely avoid delays in the process. How does it work? So in the portal, you will receive our messages, our requests, and you are also going to be notified by email that you have a message waiting for us or waiting for your action. Who will get the message? It's the person who registered the PIC at the very beginning, the self-registered, or if the LIR is appointed for a valid PIC, it's going to be the LIR who will receive the notifications. Let's go to the next slide and try to prevent communication problems. And I will give you some tips in case you have access lost to a non-valid PIC or to a valid PIC. There are two solutions applicable for the two scenarios. In case your entity is declared is non-valid and you lost access to it, the easiest solution is to create a new PIC. Again, it takes 5-7 minutes. Once you created this new PIC, communicate via this new PIC to us that you registered a new PIC, that it's the same as your previous one where you lost access for no matter reasons. And we will link your new PIC as master to your old PIC. And then this will appear in the project, and we will communicate again what documents do we need to complete the process. In case the PIC is valid, the process is a bit different, but it will always go in the same direction to make sure you recover your access. So if the LIR was appointed in the past, it means that we need to appoint another LIR in order to recover the access. And for this, there is a special tool available for you in the portal. The link is in the slide. It's called the LIR recovery procedure. This tool allows you to get in contact with us and then to generate the LIR appointment documents in order to let us verify and reappoint the LIR and provide you access again to your account. Let's go to the last slide on guidelines. Here we are sharing links with some important documents for you to take note. Our rules, of course. Again, information on how to register in the portal, or more step-by-step online manual, and then we have the legal notice of the funding and tender portal. And that was it from our side. I will have a look at the chat in case there are questions. Okay, I see some questions. I think it's one for you, Mariam, with the FCA for a small company.
Yes, thank you. I'm answering, actually, I was answering on the chat, but I will say it like that everyone hears. Also in the chat. Would a small company fail in FCA? In other words, is there a minimum turnover for a coordinator of a certain grant size? No, the turnover, we do not have a limit, but the financial indicators, you can also read more on the Horizon Europe program. You see the indicators there, you will find the information there. We will prepare the assessment based on overall financial statements that you send to us. So there are different indicators, ratios, liquidity, profitability, solvency. So, and there is no limit being set for the turnover. It depends what will be the result. You can also, I think there is a self-assessment. You can also access it. You will see it. I will find now the link. Maybe I can put it in the chat. So like that, you can have access and check yourself to see what will be the result of the FCA for your entity. I hope I answered the question. If anything else.
What we can complement maybe for Arnold is that this is really, the answer is applicable for grant, because for procurement, maybe the turnover
Indeed,
is assessed in a different way via the same PIC, via the same entity. So
exactly. I'm referring to the grants. Yes.
To the grants.
Thank you, Radu. Yes.
Yes. So another question from Sandra. This is a very good question. Of course, how long takes approximately to validate the PIC? On average, Sandra, we have statistics on, depending on the year, 5 to 7 days to finalize the process from the moment we receive all the documents from you. There is a ping pong, of course, many times between us and the participants in order to make sure all the documents are collected and they are correct. From that moment, we take 5 to 7 days, but there is a seasonality to it. That's why I'm saying it's an average. It means that there are certain periods during the year, like summer or now beginning of September, where we have a peak period in our workload, where we have thousands of requests triggering the same time. And then in that period, we are slower than these 5 to 7 days. We have also a period where we recuperate at the beginning of the year, so we are much faster. It can last 3 to 4 days. I don't see other questions. I think we give back the floor to Catherine.
Thank you very much, Radu and Mariam. Very nice to have had this extra information, which is very relevant to our participants, and nice to see an ex-colleague from Shift2Rail who's happily working at REA. So happy family. So thank you very much. We will now, we are a little bit early on schedule, which is fantastic. If you have any more questions, don't hesitate to ask us. But then I think I will propose we have a little coffee break, and then we will start our matchmaking session promptly at 11:30. So the room will stay live, of course. So if you want to stay connected, stay connected, but we will restart in 10 minutes with the matchmaking session. So stay with us. We are still a large number and looking forward to starting on the matchmaking session with you. Welcome back, everyone. I hope everybody hears me well. It is now time to move to our matchmaking session, which will be taking place on the B2Match platform where you all started in the event. As I said previously, this environment will be left live for all participants after today's event, and this until the end of the call on the 7th of February. So what can you do in this platform? In this B2Match, you will be able to create your profile and tell us about your organization, experience, project ideas, and the services you offer. You'll be able to express your interest in one of or several Europe's Rail JU Call 2023 topics. You will also be able to find partners for your project proposal or join a consortium in making, schedule meetings, and organize virtual meetings at any moment. You will now be invited to disconnect from this meeting and go back to the platform where you will connect to the session you registered to. Should you not have registered, you can still join by clicking on any sessions button in the program or in the links that we have put in the chat. So if you would like to join now as an afterthought, you can do that by looking into the links we have on the chat or in the program. What will you find there? You will find our program managers and senior program managers who will be there to greet you and animate the session. It's the moment for you. You may change also and attend other sessions during this hour. It will last for an hour. And as I said, this moment is really for you and will be a success if you take an active part and speak up. So this is all from my side. It has been a pleasure to animate this event and connect with the crème de la crème of European rail researchers and businesses. I wish you good luck with the proposals and stay in touch. You will have the possibility to ask any questions in the info call email mailbox that we have put in the chat. So good luck to all of you. Enjoy this matchmaking session and stay in touch.